All right, all right. Welcome everyone to another episode of Build with the CEO. I am excited to be here. My name is Trevor. I'm the CEO of Coach Catalyst, and this is the Tuesday show. So, first off, first things first, check out this background. Isn't that kind of sexy? We got the new logos up there. And so that just got done. So I'm excited about that. And I'm excited to be here with you today because today we are talking about our 4-week fall ramp up plan. So let's kind of go review a little bit about what we talked about last week. So today is July. And so, Trevor, why are you talking about the fall? Because today in July is the time that you should be thinking about what you are going to be doing in the fall. I used the farming analogy last time, and I think this is a really good analogy, right? We need to start preparing the land and planting the seeds in July so that we can harvest in, in the fall. Because the fall is arguably the best time in the kind of nutrition, fitness, lifestyle world, mainly because the summer is typically a carefree time, right? A lot of people aren't ready to commit in the summertime because I got this going on. I got barbecues, I got boats, I got beverages, all that kind of stuff. I'm really maybe not ready to make those changes in the summer. But when fall comes around, it's this natural time where the season becomes a little bit more scheduled, right? If you're working with a population that has kids are going back to school, right? We're getting schedules again. Maybe schedules aren't quite as packed as they can be in the summer. And I'm ready to take care of myself because, like, let's be honest, things may have slid a little bit in the summer as well. And so I'm ready to kind of get it back under control before it slips too far. So that's what we talked about last week. We really went deep into that stuff. So if you want to check that out, definitely check it out. But now we're going to talk about like the how, right? The fall, there's a few pieces. Actually, before we get into the how, I want to just kind of outline the fall one more time. And I'm actually going to pull something up. But we just created this really cool guide. I'm going to pull this thing up. I'm going to share my screen with you. So give me a second here to pull this up. But we created this really cool guide that will help you. And if you want the guide, the link is going to be in the description, so you can just go grab it. So I'm going to share my screen, and this guide will help me kind of talk through, or at least frame the fall here. So let's see if I can share the correct screen. I don't think it'll let me share a PDF. So, oh, it will. Perfect. All right. All right. So I'm going to share this screen with you right here, and we'll walk you through a little bit of this. So this is a guide that we created really to help you guys figure out your July to January, what to run, when to run it, and how to grow. So there's a lot of stuff in here that really kind of plays into it. But the one I want to bring your attention to is this particular screen. I think this is a really good overview of how we can be running our fall, right? And when I say running, I mean we are going to be making money, which means working with clients. We're going to be kind of prepping for a potential January another launch. We're going to be building our list, and we're going to be getting what's called micro commitments throughout the fall. Micro commitments might be downloading a guide. They might be joining a 5-day, 7-day type program. They're not our core offerings, right? But they're little commitments that are moving people along in their journey with us as a potential coach. So this gives you a nice overview, and we use some of the programs that we've created in Coach Catalyst and in SuperCoach CRM to give you some framework. But you may very well have programs that are your core offerings, the things that you run, or lead metrics that have worked really well for you. Just plug and play, right? This is meant to be a visual. If you don't have anything, you can just run off of what we've created, right? So, all right, here's kind of the idea, right? When we move into early August, we should be editing and prepping for some sort of kind of back to school. You don't need to call it back to school. We should be launching one of our core programs in September. I personally like kind of the week after Labor Day as a good launch time because most everyone is back in school at that point. So, but we think about it, right? Like this isn't just launching a program. And the mistake that a lot of coaches make is they just simply like try to throw something together at the last minute. So most coaches are like planning in the end of August and trying to launch in early September, and they wonder why their launches maybe fall short or they don't get as many signups as they needed to. It's because they didn't really follow the law of the land. They didn't follow the process. They simply jumped to the harvest season. But we need the soil preparation, we need the planting, we need the fertilizing, right? And we need to allow it to grow, and then we get to harvest, right? So we have to go through that whole process, and we can't necessarily shorten it up. And so audiences, they're not buying like on the first email, right? They need time to warm up. And too many times we kind of jump to, will you marry me, instead of like all of the stages that happen in between, right? So a poor prep means we're going to have a weak launch, we're going to have weak messaging, and we're probably going to have low signups, right? So when we look at this marketing calendar for the fall, the first thing we should be thinking about is, what core thing are we launching in September? What is going to resonate with our audience, right? And there is a key term in there. I said our audience. That is a really important term. Who are you serving, and what problem are you solving for that population? If we can't define that, that is step one. I don't care about programs, I don't care about whatever. You have to define who you're speaking to and what problem you're solving. Once you understand those two principles, now we can utilize the program as a way to solve that problem. Okay. You're not selling the program, you're selling a solution to their problem. And so if we don't know the problem, it's hard to give the solution to that problem, right? And so step one, if we're starting from zero, understand the problem that your audience has, and then position the program to solve that problem. And then in August, we're going to edit, we're going to get that program ready, we're going to prep all our promotions. We might have to prep our funnels, our landing pages, all that kind of stuff. And then we're going to promote. And then we're going to run the program. And that program was probably going to run 6-8 weeks, September through basically the end of October, if you're running 8 weeks. And then if you wanted to, you can have like a phase 2 of that. And we're actually creating a phase 2 for the back to school program for people that do want to run a 16-week program that takes you essentially to the end of December, right? So we're running this program. This is a program that we are generating revenue from for our business, right? And that's running through the fall. But we have to think about running some things concurrently as well. And so the problem I see for a lot of coaches is it's like a feast or a famine, right? I'm running a program and it's doing great and I'm killing it for my clients, but I'm not actually thinking about promoting until that program ends, right? And then I'm like, oh, shoot, I need to do a bunch of promotion. So then I start promoting, and then I launch the next thing. And so we run into these gaps where we have these gaps in between quote unquote launches that we have or programs that we're running. And we don't have a nice consistent flow of revenue. We end up having like a ton of revenue and then nothing for a while, and then a ton of revenue and then nothing for a while. And how we can get around that is we can just be running things concurrently. That's how we set up this calendar, is to give you a visual on how things could potentially run concurrently. And so first thing, I'll just walk through this calendar. Back to school, right? That's our core program. Insert whatever your core program might be called. Trick or treat, that's a lead magnet. Okay, that's a lead magnet that we can promote in October, because why? People are thinking about Halloween. People are thinking about candy, right? It's a great lead magnet that is psychographic specific, meaning we are entertaining the conversation that's going on in our clients' heads, right? We're inserting ourselves into that conversation. And then Spooktacular, that's what I would call a micro commitment, meaning we're asking the client to join us for a Spooktacular challenge, 4 weeks, 21 days, whatever you want to run. But we're basically just kind of moving them a little bit closer to working with us. And then we have festive recipes, right? Again, it's going to be promoted and launched in November, kind of fits with the holidays. And then we have the countdown, which is another kind of micro commitment program. Call it a front end offer, call it whatever you want, but another way to engage with our list for low or no cost, right? And we want to be people on our list to be raising their hands, or people in our audience to be raising their hands. Say, hey, yeah, I'd be interested in that. Let's do that. That gives us the opportunity to showcase our value and how we can help that person. And then we have a couple of lead magnets like goal setting, and also kind of a lead generation type quiz that we could be launching in December, which is then setting up our January promotion, right? Where we start promoting at the end of December, beginning of January, for another big launch in January. So hopefully this helps you kind of start to visualize a little bit on how all of this stuff fits together for the fall, right? We have our core programs. We have our lead magnets. We have our kind of front end offer, short term programs, all kind of running through almost concurrently, but at strategic times throughout the fall. So that's a little bit about the overview on what it looks like. Let me figure out how to stop sharing this guy, and we'll come back to this screen. And so that's a little bit of the overview. Now, if you do want that, just go into the description. It should be there somewhere. If not, just hit me up in the comments, and I'm happy to send that over. There will be an opt-in where you do have to provide your email address, but if you're already on our list, great. It'll just kind of add it in, and then you'll get it. You'll get added to that, and we've got some helpful emails that go along with that guide to help you with some launch stuff. So that's a guide. Go grab it. The next thing is, let's talk about your first thing that you're going to be doing, which is you're going to be launching a core program in September. Okay. Again, one of the best times of the year. I would argue this is better than the new year as far as people's awareness, attention. I've found that I get a better client if I can capture them in September than if I can capture them in January. September clients are a little bit more focused, or sometimes January clients are just like, I feel like I got to do a resolution, so I'm jumping on now, right? Not a bad thing, but the mindset is just a little bit different between the two, right? So let's talk about this kind of 4-week ramp up, right? Because that's really what this episode was, the 4-week ramp up. When we're launching a program, what should the 4 weeks leading up to that program be? And honestly, there's probably another 5 to 6 weeks when I'll kind of talk about these pre-weeks as well, because a lot of that's like building. You saw on the fall marketing guide, there was like a build phase, right? So if I'm going to drop a lead magnet, there's a level of building that needs to happen. I need a landing page. I potentially need a funnel. I need potentially some automations, right? I need maybe a sequence, an email sequence that goes to those people afterwards, right? From the lead magnet that they download. And so there is a little bit of building that happens. And so when we think about launching a program, let's just call it our back to school, for lack of a better term for today. Let's say we're running back to school in September. Awesome. Okay. So 4 weeks back from that means we probably should be launching something in early August. You're hopefully listening to this at the beginning of July, middle of July. So you've got the rest of this month to start figuring out what that's going to be. So step one, week one, we want to think about building our list. So we want to think about what's something that I could create or use and give to my audience in exchange for their email. Right? We're just trying to build our list. That could be posting on socials. Hey, I've just created this new guide that helps people do X, Y, Z. Would you like it? Cool. Hey, I just created this cheat sheet that does X, Y, Z. Would you like it? Awesome. Right? So we want to start kind of building that list, building our email list. Okay, that's all week one. We want a lead magnet. We're going to push, quiz, download, anything like that. We just want to start growing our audience. Okay. And then week two, and this could also be part of the automation from, or the follow-up sequence from the download. Week two, we're going to really start to nurture. Okay. We want to nurture that list. We want emails. We want content. We want some warm-up posts. And this stuff is like kind of agitating the problem a little bit, right? Someone signed up for your list because they have a problem and they think that you could potentially be a solution to their problem, or you'll help them move towards a solution. And so, like, kind of week two leading up to our launch is going to kind of agitate that problem. What is it? What are people struggling with? Right? We're going to agitate that a little bit and make sure that people are really problem aware. And we want people to kind of raise their hand and be like, yeah, that's me. Right? I'm kind of dealing with some of that stuff. So that's where we're just really starting to nurture. And then we start positioning ourselves as the expert and the authority to be able to do that. And it's really simple, right? To position yourself, you just show testimonials, right? Social proof. Who have you done this with before, right? That's how you convince someone that you're someone worth hiring. And then in week three, we start to tease the offer on something that's coming up, right? We kind of preview what's coming. We call this future pacing. And so you're kind of foreshadowing what is to come. So now we're getting a little bit more clear on, hey, here was the problem that we talked about in week two. In week three, now we are talking about maybe potential solutions and how that can happen, right? And you guys may see a little bit of this at what we're doing here at Coach Catalyst. So at the end of July, we're going to be launching something really cool. We've created a bunch of done for you stuff to make marketing, to make funnels, automations really easy for coaches in essentially Q3 and Q4 of this year. And so you'll notice right? We're kind of in end of week 1, week 2 of this, and I'm starting to foreshadow a little bit about what's to come. And if you have the problem, if you're struggling with some marketing, if you're struggling with some of your systems, you'll probably pay attention, right? And be like, oh, okay, that's interesting. These guys have put out great content before. They create awesome stuff that helps coaches. I'm listening. Tell me more, right? And then if it makes sense, right, you might jump on it. Cool. And so it's very similar in your business, right? So in week 3, we're starting to tease, we're starting to maybe preview. We're talking about what's coming, again, future pacing, right? And then week 3. And then in week 4 is when we open the cart, right? And we could go deep into some of the psychology around this stuff, but most people are going to buy either right when the cart opens and then also right when the cart closes. So it's good to really kind of incentivize both of those things. So a cart closing is really easy, right? There's a deadline. Most people react really well to deadlines. So if there is a deadline, then people will sign up, because if I don't sign up before the deadline, I won't get in. If I have the problem, I have a problem, you have the solution. And if I don't sign up before the deadline, I don't get a solution to my problem, right? So that's a really easy one. That's a deadline one. And a really good book around this is, I believe it's Robert Cialdini. I think that's how you say his name. And it's I think it's the 7 laws of persuasion. And I'll look it up here quick just to make sure I got it right. Cialdini, 7 Principles of Persuasion. And so it's a really good book. And some of these principles I'm talking about are outlined a little bit more in this book. But if you're kind of interested in this psychology, that's a really good book. So 7 Principles of Persuasion by Dr. Robert Cialdini. So first one is urgency, deadlines happening. The second one is we like to try and create some sort of like early bird offer, like an incentive at the beginning, right? So is there a value add, or is there something else you could add to your program to get people to sign up earlier? Could they get an extra call? Could they get a special guide? At our facilities, many times we will have an incentive where if someone signs up right away, they get to start training right away. So they essentially get free training until the start of a challenge. So that could be another example. There's lots of examples or there's lots of ways that you could add value to something. So not a huge fan of discounting, especially with coaching and this type of stuff, because it's really subjective, right? Like what someone charges. It's not this is what a good costs, and this is what it costs to ship it, and yada yada yada, and wholesalers and all these kind of like markups. It's kind of like you get charged whatever you want for coaching. And if the client feels like they're going to get more out of the coaching than what they're giving to you in money, then it's a good position, right? So I'm not a huge fan of discounting. I don't like to have coaches set that principle within their business. So I'd rather have some value adds. So you think about what are some things that I could add that would incentivize someone to sign up earlier. Right. So we want to kind of have basically two incentives. The first incentive is the value adds, and then we can have like a deadline for that one. And then we have the final deadline of getting into the actual challenge, right? Or getting into the program. Don't feel like this needs to be a challenge. I might use that word, but I'm going to use the word program and challenge interchangeably. But think about it as like your core offering. That's really what we're talking about in this back to school time. Okay. And you can start map it out. And that's really what we tried to do with that fall marketing calendar, was give you some ideas on what part of the month you should be thinking about each piece. Because many times we can just get stuck in our business, right? We're head down, we're coaching clients, we're trying to get more clients, and all of a sudden we come up and, hey, I want to run something. And then we try to throw it together quickly. And maybe doesn't have the impact that we would like it to have, right? And so you can use the framework that we've laid out in the fall marketing guide to kind of give you an idea on what you should be working on when. And it was very thoughtfully designed to be a way that's going to work for you as a coach. So right now, really all your focus should be on a core program that I'm running in September. Okay. Everything, all the build out should be happening for that. So depending on how you operate, right? Are you offline? Are you online? What current marketing channels do you have available to you? Do you have an email list? Do you not have an email list? Do you need to build it? Which means we might need a lead magnet or some other things. Are you in person? And so maybe we need to schedule a talk or two in August to be able to get out and provide value to our ideal clients, to our audience, with an invitation for them to come in, right? So we have to start thinking about what different marketing channels, what different awareness channels do we have at our disposal? And then we could start executing on them. But we're thinking about it now in the beginning to middle of July rather than thinking about it in August, because August is when we need to be executing on this stuff. Like we should be executing our plan beginning kind of the second week in August, right? That gives us that kind of 4 week lead up time. So it gives us, I mean, about 3 weeks, maybe a month to prep this stuff, and that's why we're talking about this stuff this whole month at Coach Catalyst. So now, there's going to be some tools that help make this easier, right? Or if you're listening to this and you're a SuperCoach CRM user, right? Obviously, you have a lot of these funnels, lead magnets, all that kind of stuff already in there, ready to rock and roll. You just have to request that stuff. At Coach Catalyst, we've created a lot of these programs for you inside of Coach Catalyst to make it easy for you to be able to just execute things. But now is the time to be looking at this stuff. July is the time to be looking at this stuff. If you have a funnel software that you already use, it's starting to kind of build out that landing page, build out that funnel, build out some of the assets that you may need in order to execute some of this stuff. This is our build time. We plan, we prepare, and then we start building right now. If you do need help with any of this stuff, definitely hit us up. But we should be carving out time in your calendar at this point to start making this stuff happen, because the fall is not a time that we want to come in unprepared. Okay. It is arguably one of the best times in this industry to go out and really put all our effort in getting new clients, right? I'm not a huge fan of like all out effort all the time. I like these idea of intervals where we put large amounts of effort in for a short period of time, and then we kind of back off a little bit, and then we put large amounts of effort in, and then we back off a little bit. So basically from now through kind of through Q3, like really Q3 is our kind of bigger effort time, right? And this is where we plan, we prepare, and we build so that when people are ready come September, we've done the work, and we can make the ask, and then we can ultimately change people's lives. And so this gives you breathing room, it allows you creativity. You're not like, hey, this has got to get out tomorrow. You have time to be able to do it really, really well. So if we kind of recap this 4 week build, we have week one is really our building week, right? Week 2 is really we nurture. Week 3, we kind of tease. And then week 4, we launch. So if you want to think about it like that, you can. And this kind of goes unsaid, but we should be like communicating with our audience on a regular basis. We can't just show up when we want to sell something, right? That doesn't seem to work really well, right? We should be providing value on a continual basis. And then when we're kind of showing people how to get a little bit more help, that's when we move into these launch series. So week 1, we build the list. Week 2, we nurture the list. Week 3, we tease the offer. And week 4, we open the cart. We create some emergency. We have a couple different deadlines, essentially, and we rock and roll, and we get clients, right? And we just repeat this process. We repeat this process because we're growing the audience. The bigger the audience, the easier this becomes. So if you need a little bit of guidance, definitely check out the fall marketing calendar. It is in the description. If you're on YouTube, it should be in the description. On Facebook, it should be in the description. And we're going to be talking about it in our emails throughout the week. I'm going to have links in there. So if you do miss it or you can't find it, definitely catch one of our emails this week, because it will be in there for sure. So next week, we're gonna dive into a little bit deeper into this fall. We're going to talk about some offers that actually convert, and yeah, that's kind of the lay of the land. If you did miss the 28-day macro program, that one is live in the marketplace as well. So if you are a macro coach, or you want kind of an intro to macros, you want a program to launch around that, that is in there. The guide is still being there's some finishing touches being put on that, so that should be done next week sometime, and then we should be good to go. So hopefully this gave you a little bit of insight, maybe a little bit of a plan on how to start executing this stuff. We are in our prepare and plan phase, and we can start building so that you can have the best fall you've ever had in your business. That's our goal here. So if you have any questions, definitely hit me up. My name is Trevor, the CEO of Coach Catalyst, and I'm here every Tuesday. If you have any questions or anything you want me to cover, just tag me, and we'll see if we can add it into the show. So have a great rest of your Tuesday, or whatever day you're watching this. We'll see you later. Bye.